The phone wouldn't stop buzzing on my kitchen counter. 10 missed calls in just 4 minutes. Mom, Dad, Sophie, all taking turns like it was some kind of family fire drill. I watched the screen light up with each new notification, then fade back to darkness while soft snow tapped gently against my window pane. On the counter beside me sat my packed suitcase, a boarding pass to Colorado folded neatly beside it. 10:01 a.m. That was the exact time they were supposed to meet me at the bank to help my sister buy her apartment. The apartment I was supposedly able to easily afford. I stirred my coffee slowly, deliberately, feeling the warmth seep into my hands. Calm, steady. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just disappeared. But if you truly understood what pushed me to walk away that day, you'd realize why my silence became the loudest statement I ever made. My name is Lily. I'm 30 years old, and I've been working since I was 16. Back then, while my friends were saving their summer job money for concert tickets and new clothes, I was saving every penny for textbooks and gas money to get to my after-school job. I flipped burgers until my hands smelled like grease, stocked supermarket shelves on weekends until my feet ached, and told myself that every single dollar earned was another step away from ever having to depend on anyone else's help. By the time I graduated high school, I had scraped together just enough for one semester of college, barely enough to get my foot in the door. When I got accepted into Tech University, I thought my parents would finally be proud of me. I remember coming home that night clutching the acceptance letter, my heart racing with excitement. I told them at dinner, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad looked up from his phone just long enough to say, "That's the expensive one, isn't it?" My mum sighed, carefully slicing Sophie's chicken into tiny, perfect bites, like it was the most important task in the world. "We don't have that kind of money, Lily," she said without looking up. "Maybe you should have tried harder for a full scholarship." I remember the sting in my throat as I forced a smile, pushing my own plate away. Sophie, only 12 years old at the time, grinned at me like she understood some secret I was missing. That was the precise moment I realized I was completely on my own. I took out student loans, $60,000 at first. By the time I graduated 4 years later, the interest had magically transformed that debt into $80,000. I worked through college any way I could, campus tech lab assistant, tutoring other students, whatever odd jobs I could find between classes. Most nights I fell asleep at my desk with an empty coffee cup beside me and a half-eaten granola bar still in my hand. The only person who ever called to check on me, who truly cared about how I was doing, was my grandma Nora. She called every single Sunday without fail, and sometimes I'd find little envelopes in my mailbox with $50 bills tucked inside and notes written in her shaky, cursive handwriting. "Keep going, sweetheart. You're almost there." Grandma Nora was the reason I never gave up, the reason I kept pushing forward even when I wanted to quit. When I finally graduated, my parents didn't come to the ceremony. They were on a cruise with Sophie, something we'd supposedly planned for months, my mom explained over the phone. Grandma Nora, however, drove 4 hours through terrible weather just to be there. She stood in the crowded auditorium, waving enthusiastically, like I was the only person in the entire world worth celebrating. After graduation, I landed my first real job as a software engineer. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady, reliable income. I rented a small apartment that I could barely afford, ate canned soup for dinner most nights, and sent every extra dollar toward paying down those crushing student loans. I watched my friends buy new cars, travel the world, and start their adult lives while I calculated exactly how many years of payments I had left. 10 years, if I was lucky. My parents rarely called during those years. When they did, the conversations were polite but painfully shallow. "How's work?" "Good." "That's nice." "Sophie just got elected to student council." By the time I turned 30, I had one simple goal: finish paying off the debt and finally breathe freely for the first time in my adult life. The morning I made my final payment, I sat in complete silence, staring at the computer screen that displayed the magical words, "Balance, $0." It should have felt like pure freedom, and for a moment, it did. Then my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the screen. After years of near silence, She suddenly wanted to have dinner to reconnect. If only I'd known what she really meant by that word, I would have let that call go straight to voicemail. Dinner at my parents' house felt exactly how I remembered it. Too clean, too quiet, like the very air in the room didn't trust you to breathe normally. Mom greeted me with a smile that looked rehearsed, practiced in the mirror before I arrived. Dad stood behind her, hands tucked deep into his pockets like he was bracing himself. Sophie was already at the table, scrolling endlessly on her phone, pretending not to notice my arrival. "It's so good to see you," Mom said, leaning in for a hug that barely grazed my shoulder. "You've been so busy. We hardly hear from you anymore." I wanted to laugh out loud. You hardly tried to reach out. You hardly cared. Dinner was roast chicken and mashed potatoes, served in the same old family hierarchy I'd grown up with. Sophie sat at the head of the table where Mom used to sit, chatting animatedly about her new job at a marketing firm. My parents listened to her like she was delivering the State of the Union address. When I spoke about my own work, the room quieted in that polite, uninterested way that made my stomach clench. "So," Dad started, carving his chicken with deliberate slowness, "you're still at that software company?" "Yes," I replied. "Good money in that field," he said, not looking up. "Must be nice to be comfortable." I shrugged, pushing my food around my plate. "I'm doing okay." Mom poured wine into Sophie's glass before even glancing at mine. "You deserve it, sweetheart," she said to Sophie, not to me. "You've worked so hard." I bit my tongue until it hurt. I'd worked harder than anyone at that table, harder than anyone I knew, but I'd learned long ago that saying so only made me look bitter and ungrateful. The next week, I went to visit Grandma Nora. She was sitting in her favorite armchair by the window, knitting something pink and lacy. "You saw them, didn't you?" she asked without looking up, her knitting needles clicking softly. I nodded, sinking into the chair across from her. They seemed very interested in my finances. Her knitting needles paused mid-stitch. "Oh, Lily," she sighed. "That's exactly what I was afraid of." "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart sinking. She set her knitting aside and looked me straight in the eyes. "My friend Judith? She lives next door to your parents. Called me yesterday. Said she overheard them talking in their backyard. They're planning to ask you to help Sophie buy an apartment. Something about $350,000. For a second, I thought I must have misheard her. The number was so outrageous it didn't even compute. "They want me to buy her an apartment?" I whispered. Grandma nodded slowly, her expression grave. "They said you have a good job now, no student loans anymore, that you could easily afford it." That phrase, "easily afford it," hit me like a physical slap across the face. I had spent 12 long years climbing out of a financial hole they had helped dig for me, working myself to exhaustion while they cheered for Sophie from the sidelines. And now, they wanted me to jump right back into another financial abyss, this time for my sister. I sat back in my chair, my chest tight, eyes burning but stubbornly dry. "They didn't even pay $1 single for my tuition," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "They told me to figure it out myself." "I know, sweetheart," Grandma said softly, reaching for my hand. "I was there. I remember." I looked at the little clock on her mantel, the second hand ticking loudly in the quiet room. "They never cared how hard it was for me," I said, more to myself than to her. "And now they think I'm just an ATM machine with legs and a heartbeat." Grandma put down her knitting completely and reached across the space between us, taking both of my hands in hers. Her skin was soft and warm. "You don't owe them anything, Lily. Not after everything they put you through. Not after all the birthdays they missed, all the graduations they skipped, all the times they chose Sophie over you." Her words sank deep into my bones, settling in places that had been bruised for years. I'd spent my entire adult life waiting for that validation from anyone, from my parents, from my sister, from anyone who mattered. And now, hearing it out loud from the one person who had always loved me unconditionally, it didn't feel like permission to leave. It felt like release, like finally being set free from a prison I didn't even realize I was still living in. That night, driving home through the falling snow, I replayed Grandma's words over and over in my head. My phone buzzed again on the passenger seat. Mom. I didn't answer. The voicemail that followed was syrupy sweet, dripping with false concern. Dinner again next week? We'd love to catch up properly this time. I pulled over to the side of the road, staring at the glowing screen in the darkness, and something fundamental inside me shifted. All my life, I'd been taught that silence meant weakness, that not responding, not fighting back, made me small and insignificant. But sitting there in my car, engine humming softly, snow drifting gently across my windshield, I realized something profound. Sometimes, silence isn't weakness at all. Sometimes, silence is the most powerful strategy of all. They were planning their move, their next manipulation, their next financial extraction. And for the first time in my life, I was planning mine too. 2 weeks after that dinner, Mom called again. Her voice was soft, almost rehearsed, like she was reading from a script. Your father and I were just saying how proud we are of you, Lily. Why don't you come by this weekend? We can have a nice family dinner. Sophie will be there too. It was the first genuine-sounding family dinner invitation I'd received in years. I said yes immediately, knowing exactly why they wanted me there, knowing exactly what was coming. Saturday arrived wrapped in grey skies and sleet that made the road slippery and dangerous. I almost turned around halfway there, the rational part of my brain screaming that this was a bad idea. But curiosity, or maybe the need for closure, kept me driving forward. When I stepped inside their house, the familiar smell of lemon cleaner and something else, something like control and expectation, hit me immediately. The good china was out, the crystal glasses polished to a shine. Sophie's laughter floated from the kitchen, high-pitched and nervous. Mom met me at the doorway, her smile a little too wide, a little too bright. You look so professional these days, she said, her eyes flicking over my coat, my boots, my bag, like she was assessing my net worth. Your job must be treating you very well. It's fine, I said simply, hanging up my coat. Dinner began like a carefully choreographed theatre performance. Polite small talk that went nowhere, exaggerated smiles that didn't reach anyone's eyes. Dad asked about my salary, out of curiosity. Mom mentioned casually how Sophie had found this beautiful apartment downtown. Great location, 2 bedrooms, walking distance to her office. Sophie jumped in eagerly. It's perfect, Lily. You should see it sometime. I smiled faintly, keeping my expression neutral. Sounds nice. Mom set down her fork with deliberate care and folded her hands on the table like she was about to lead a prayer. Your father and I have been talking, she began, her voice carefully measured. Sophie's at such an important point in her life where she really needs stability. And well, you're in such a strong financial position now, with that nice job and no debts. Dad cleared his throat loudly. We think it would mean a lot to all of us if you helped her get started. Maybe you could co-sign the loan, or even cover the payments for a while until she gets established. I felt something in my chest tighten like a vice, but my face remained perfectly calm, perfectly blank. $350,000, I said slowly, letting the number hang in the air like smoke. Mom smiled, relief washing over her features. Exactly. It's really not that much when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. You could easily afford it. The sentence hit me like a gunshot. Word for word, exactly what Grandma Nora had warned me I'd hear. I set my fork down gently on my plate. The room went completely still, everyone holding their breath. Of course, I said, my voice steady and calm. If that's what you want, I'd be happy to help. Relief washed over their faces like a tidal wave. Sophie squealed with delight and jumped up to hug me. You're the best! I knew you'd help! I hugged her back, my smile soft but completely hollow, like a painted mask. That night, I went home and started packing, not in anger, not in haste, but in perfect, crystalline clarity. I pulled out my laptop and typed a short, professional email to my boss, Eric. You mentioned the Colorado branch might be expanding soon. If that position is still open, I'd very much like to be considered for the transfer. His reply came within hours. Let's talk Monday morning. I've been hoping you'd ask about this. I stood in my half-empty apartment, surrounded by open cardboard boxes, watching the snow start to fall gently outside my window. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running away from them in fear or shame. I was walking toward myself, toward the life I deserved to have. They thought I'd show up at that bank on Monday to hand over my freedom, my future, my hard-earned money. But the truth was, by the time they sat down at that bank to sign those papers, I'd already be gone, already starting over somewhere they couldn't reach me. The week before the bank meeting, I moved like a ghost through my old life. I packed boxes late at night when the world was quiet, cancelled my lease with careful precision, transferred my mail to a new address across the country. Every detail was calculated, methodical, leaving no trace behind. By Friday evening, my apartment was stripped bare, except for one small box labeled simply Colorado. I didn't tell Grandma Nora about my plan until the day before my flight. We were sitting in her cozy kitchen, drinking chamomile tea, the steam rising in soft curls between us. "Colorado," she repeated, frowning slightly. "That's so far away, sweetheart." I nodded, my throat tight. "I can't stay here, Grandma. As long as I'm close, they'll never stop taking if I keep giving. They'll never see me as anything but their personal bank account." She studied my face for a long, thoughtful moment, then smiled. A smile that was sad, but so incredibly proud. "You do what you need to do, Lily. You've earned the right to choose your own path. Just promise me you'll call when you get there, so I know you're safe." "I promise," I said, squeezing her hand. That night, I double-checked every single detail. The movers scheduled for Monday morning, my plane ticket confirmed, the new apartment waiting for me across state lines. My phone buzzed again on the table. "Mom, don't forget about the appointment tomorrow. 10 a.m. sharp. We're counting on you." I stared at the message until the words blurred together. Then I powered the phone off completely, the screen going dark like the life I was leaving behind. Monday morning came gray and cold. The movers arrived right on time, loading my furniture into their truck while I cleaned the last streaks off my apartment windows. When the door finally shut behind me for the last time, it felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath underwater. I turned in my keys to the building manager, rolled my suitcase down the hallway one last time, and didn't look back, not even once. By Tuesday morning, I was standing in my new office in Colorado, looking out at a different skyline, the same kind of falling snow. My boss, Eric, gave me a warm welcome and a tour of the building, introducing me to the team. "You'll fit right in here," he said with genuine enthusiasm. I smiled back, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. That's exactly the plan. At 9:59 a.m. that Friday, the day of the bank meeting, my phone began to vibrate insistently on my new desk. First Mom, then Dad, then Sophie. Call after call, buzzing like angry wasps trapped in a jar. I watched the screen light up repeatedly before flipping the phone face down on the desk. At 10:03 a.m., I imagined them sitting in that bank lobby, checking their expensive watches, wondering why I was late. At 10:05 a.m., maybe Mom would start pacing, whispering to Dad that I was being selfish and immature. At 10:10 a.m., my dad would probably grumble about embarrassment and wasted time. At 10:15 a.m., Sophie would pout, crossing her arms and complaining that she promised. And by 10:30 a.m., when the full realization finally hit them, I hoped the silence that followed would be absolutely deafening. Around noon, my phone lit up again with a barrage of text messages. "Where are you?" "We're waiting at the bank." "You're making us look stupid in front of the loan officer." "Call us now." I took a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee, watching the Colorado mountains glow in the afternoon sunlight outside my window. Then I answered. "Lily!" Mom's voice was sharp, frantic, barely controlled. "Where the hell are you? We've been sitting here for 2 hours." I looked out at the snow-capped peaks, sunlight glinting off the white slopes. "At work," I said calmly. "In Colorado." Silence, then absolute chaos erupted through the phone. "Colorado? What are you talking about? When did you—" "I transferred last week," I explained simply. "New position, new start, new life." Mom's breath hitched like she'd been physically slapped. "You can't just run away like this. We need you here. Sophie needs this apartment. No, I said quietly but firmly. You need my money. There's a significant difference. Lily, don't be dramatic, she snapped. We're family. Family? I interrupted, my voice still calm but carrying an edge now. You mean the people who told me I wasn't worth a loan for college, but mortgaged the house twice for Sophie's tuition? The people who missed my college graduation, because Sophie wanted a cruise instead. Don't twist this around to make me the villain. Behind her, I could hear Sophie's voice rising in tears. Lily, please, just help me. I need this place to start my life. I swallowed hard, feeling the old guilt tried to creep in, but I pushed it back down. Then start it, I said firmly, but not on my back, not with my life savings. You're a grown woman. Start your own life the way I had to. There was a heavy pause, a disbelieving silence that stretched on. Then Dad's voice came through, rough and angry. You're disrespecting your mother. After everything we've done for you? I cut him off cleanly. What exactly have you done, Dad? Besides watch from the sidelines while I struggled alone? The line went dead silent. I could almost see their faces in my mind. Mom's jaw clenched tight with fury. Dad's hand gripping the phone like he wanted to crush it. Sophie's tears half frustration, half shock at having her golden ticket suddenly yanked away. Finally, Mom's voice came back, low and trembling with barely contained rage. If you hang up now, Lily, don't bother ever coming back. Consider yourself dead to us. I smiled, a small, honest smile that no one could see, but that felt more real than any expression I'd worn in years. That's exactly the idea, I said softly. Then I ended the call. The phone buzzed immediately again, then again, then again. I blocked their numbers one by one. Mom, Dad, Sophie. Each block felt lighter than the last, like I was cutting the strings of a puppet that had been controlled by someone else for far too long. For a few minutes, I just sat there in the quiet of my new office, listening to the hum of computers, the distant sound of keyboards clicking, the smell of fresh coffee in the air. My chest ached, but not from guilt, from relief, from the profound realization that I was finally free. Outside my window, the light had changed. The snow was catching the afternoon sun, sparkling in a way that almost hurt to look at, like diamonds scattered across the mountains. I pressed my hand to the cold glass, feeling the chill seep into my skin, grounding me in this new reality. In my mind, I could still hear Mom's final words, "Don't bother coming back." And for the very first time in my life, I believed her. And that belief felt like the sweetest, most liberating freedom I'd ever known. Later that afternoon, Grandma Nora called. Her voice was warm and steady, like coming home. "They came by," she said simply, "an hour after you left. They wants me to call you, to make you see reason." I laughed softly, the sound genuine and free. "And did you?" "I told them," Grandma said, her voice firm but kind. "That reason left with you on that plane. I told them they'd lost the only decent, hard-working heart in that entire house." I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes, breathing in the newness of this life. I didn't argue, I said quietly, more to myself than to her. "I know," she replied. "That's exactly why it worked. You didn't need to shout to be heard.